Hey,
Hey, Paul, how are you?
good. How are you?
Good. You can see my neck. Just a second.
Yeah, no worries.
Let me fix this. I started hooking up my camera and I saw a video on it. And my daughter's like, "Hey, Dad, I just saw this around, just hanging around. I connected it to my phone. It's pretty cool. And now it's not connected to my stuff." I'm like,
No
"Daughter,
worries.
what are you doing?"
I guess Ben got his daughter off to the airport this morning.
Yep.
She's gonna do good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, yep, I can hear
Okay.
you just fine.
All right. Well, I had this little connector thing, um, and it's supposed so you can hear me better,
Oh,
but my daughter connected it to her iPhone, and now I don't know what's going on. But if you can hear me, then
no,
I
I
think
can
we're
hear you
okay.
just fine, like just normal.
Good, good, good. Well, Paul, thanks for meeting with me. I appreciate it. Are you at home right now?
Yeah, yep, I just work from home. So this is the my little office that I have in my home. Um, and usually my company uses Zoom, so there's always a Zoom backdrop that so you
Uh-huh.
can't see. But yeah, I guess you can see behind me, so you can see how junky my my desk
Uh,
is, but
Paul, that's not
not too bad.
junky.
I just cleaned it to be honest with you, so it's way better than it was like 2 days ago.
It's iconic. Look at that. The Bill of Rights on the wall.
Yeah,
You got an atlas. I mean, I don't know
yeah, I
what
got
you're
the
studying, but
Atlas. I got a World War II book over on this side. Um,
that's pretty cool.
Picture of the signing of the Declaration up top. So yeah, we like the old our
That's neat.
founding fathers in our home. So
But
it's all good.
like you mentioned, you're now an empty nester, so that's got to
Yeah.
be fun.
Yeah. So like I can sympathize with you on with your camera and stuff when kids were home they'd always mess with my stuff and now I look forward to them messing with my stuff because it means they're home. Um so all good.
Well, this is okay. One last attempt to try to connect up, and then I'm gonna have to do something different. All right. Well, as I mentioned kind of briefly, I'm looking at the employability of BYU Idaho students and just kind of finding the it factor. And I'm using the Napoleon Hill approach. Um, you know the book Seven uh, Seven Keys to Success by Napoleon
Hmm.
Hill.
Yeah.
So he just went and interviewed just a bunch of successful people, and he asked them the same questions, and then he kind of found seven keys to success. And so that's what I'm kind of doing. The same approach. I'm not gonna change much, but I'm looking for employability. Like, what are the keys for employability? Kind of the it factor, and so I'm kind of excited to find what I get.
Yeah, I
So
read through your questions and I I read through your questions and yeah, I think I've got it summarized down to just a couple of things, at least from my perspective.
okay, well, and that's what I'm looking for. So I'll just read through the questions. And one thing that I am gonna sorry, I am going to record this And so I'll ask you each one of the questions, and if it's something that you've said, just say something like it's something like I said before, dot dot dot. Because I'm gonna throw this into AI and it's gonna help me kind of pinpoint these things. So I'll ask the same 10 questions and then you just expound on each one, or just re-expound on them. But hopefully it's about 30 minutes or less, and we'll go
Yeah,
from there.
sure.
Okay. All right. First off, the setup is looking at your best employees or coworkers, and to keep them in mind as we go through this. And if there are stories that I'd love stories that if you're like, oh, there's this one time I had this one employee, and you have a story. I love those because that will be easy to document and share, especially when I'm doing trainings. So,
Hmm.
all right. When you think about the best people in your company you've hired, how were they first discovered and noticed?
You
Or
know,
people that you've worked with?
yeah, and this answer depends a lot about concerning the type of person you're employing and the type of job that you're hiring for at an entry level position, whether it be a call center or entry level marketing or even entry level operations, no matter what the department. If it's an entry level position, you rely a lot on resume and you rely a lot on how well they did in school, any projects that they did in school, if they had an internship or not. But it's a lot larger of a leap of faith because you're only relying on very limited experience. And so, if they performed well in school, it's an indicator that they disciplined, that they study, that they put in the effort and the time to be successful in school. So they most likely, with a bit of hope, will put in the effort and the time to be successful in their position at your company, the position that you're hiring for. But so an entry level position, you're relying a lot on resume, and not just resume with all their experience, but you're relying a lot on how well did they do at their internship? How did they work in teams, study groups at school? I'll ask them about study groups that they were involved in, their contribution to their study groups, because they don't have a resume of employment and accomplishments yet, because it's an entry level position. If I'm hiring for someone that's more experienced, a director, a department head, a vice president, a head of a market, market being the head of a country, um, then I rely a lot more on their experience, and I really don't even look at education or talk to them about their education. I want to know all about their experience. Um, did they do anything novel in their previous positions that was breakthrough, that was industry leading? What success have they had in their positions at their prior companies? Then that success could be defined as financial results, or it could just also be defined as projects, implementing a new ERP system, or just different successes that they've had, and that's what I focus on. And so to sum up question number one, what do you think the best people your company has hired? A lot of it just comes down, and this is kind of the theme that I have when I'm reading through your questions, is work ethic.
Okay.
There's a lot of kids today that have degrees that are qualified from a education perspective, but I think also there's an epidemic today of kids who don't know how to work. There's so much screen time, social media. There's so many distractions today that for me, the biggest thing that I look for is work ethic. I can work with someone who is willing to work and will work hard, but doesn't fully maybe understand the position that you're hiring them for. I will hire that person any day over someone who is incredibly educated, intelligent, but yet just has very limited work ethic. And that's harder to tell from a resume, but you can, for an entry level position, but you can get there if you ask them the right questions, if you ask them about study groups, if you look at their grades, which I used to not be a big person on grade, or how well they perform in school, but I am more so today because it just talks about their work ethic. It's not a one-to-one match, but it gives a little bit of information on their work ethic. But I will hone in on study groups or projects that they've done and their contribution to those projects to try and determine if they have the work ethic or not. Because I will take work ethic any day over education and a 4.0 student.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome. Uh, I love that because sometimes you can't teach that. I mean, sometimes when you're like, all right, you've got homework to do, and then getting through the process of homework. And I hate to say it, as a teacher, sometimes it's all right. You got to jump through this hoop, and if they can do it and they do it with the right attitude, then it's like, all right, there's the start of the work ethic. But
You
I,
know, when I was at Melaleuca, I was there 10 years, and the owner, Frank Vandersloot, he talks a lot about Idaho farm boys. Like even at they just had a convention last week in Salt Lake City. And I obviously didn't attend it, but when I did attend the 10 years that I was there, in his convention speeches, he would always talk about why Melaleuca is in Idaho, and he would talk about work ethic of his employees, and he would talk about these kids growing up moving pipe,
yeah,
and that they get up early in the morning, and you have to move pipe, and then you have to feed the animals. And it wasn't well, I'll do it tomorrow situation. It was things that had to get done today. Either animals were going to starve or crops were going to get watered, and crops are our family's livelihood.
yeah,
And so he would talk about these Idaho kids that grow up moving pipe, feeding animals and so forth, and how they become the best employees because they have strong work ethic. They grow up with a very strong work ethic. And so that's why he loves hiring Idaho kids as employees at his company. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And that was before, that was just at the start of social media.
yeah.
And and social media, there's definitely benefits to social media, but there's some huge disadvantages because it is a very much a distraction for today's youth, and youth being defined as college students and people in their early 20s. And it's really putting a dent in a lot of kids' work ethic.
Yeah, oh, I agree. And it just becomes a distraction because if they have to do something, if they have two things, one thing that they have to do and should do, but they don't want to do, and
Hmm.
social media, it's easy to do the
Yeah.
social media. And what they're doing is they're feeding the endorphins that they've rewarded themselves for bad behavior, and it kind of gets them into the loop. And so,
Well, it is. It's so easy to get trapped. Personal example, Tuesday morning, election day. Um, and, I went and voted, and I came down and I had a lot of work to do on Tuesday. And a message on my phone I'm not a big social media person. I do have Facebook. I'm never on it, but a message came up about voting on my phone, and it was on Facebook, and I read it. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I went to my computer and read more because it was a long message about Tuesday's primaries, and it caused me to read another one, and it caused me to read another one. And I probably spent a half hour reading stuff, and then I realized that I had spent a half hour reading this and hadn't gotten a single thing done on a day that I had a lot to do. And I'm like, I gotta shut this down and just close the tab so it doesn't even catch my attention because I gotta get stuff done. And so it is. It's an easy trap to get into,
yeah,
and you have to have the discipline to either not get into it, or if you catch yourself getting into it, like I did, to stop and get out of it. And unfortunately, I think in today's world where there's a lot of handouts and there's a lot of things done, And it's hard to parent. And I think the parents think they're good parents when they do things for their children instead of let their children figure things out for themselves.
Yeah.
And I personally am not good at that at all because you want to help your kids, but you also learn that by helping them, you're also hurting them. But yeah, work ethic is by far, I think, the strongest indicator of a good employee today.
Okay. Oh, awesome. Well, let me ask you this question because I think we answered it, but just let me ask it just so we have it in the database. And if you have anything to add, let me know. So when you're sorting through an application or many applications, I should say, what makes a person rise to the top before the interview stage?
For me, it's people who get things done.
Okay.
And so work ethic fits into that, and also intelligence. There's people who can get things done in an hour, and then there's people who do the same task, but it may take them 3 hours. And they both have great work ethic. One's just maybe either more experienced or a little bit smarter than the other one. But for me, I look for people who get things done and accomplish things, and that's what will rise one resume above another's accomplishments. And I think there's a question like this later on, but I'll just say it now to make sure.
Okay.
Um, it, I always like to drill down. It's so easy for people to say, "Hey, I did this," or I improved this by 20%, or I improved profitability by um, whatever percent, X%, or I improved inventory turns by X%.
Mhm.
And those are great things to read on a resume. And that will get my attention. But that, for me, that doesn't hire. I want to know what they did to improve profitability by X%. What did you do to improve inventory turns? I want to know exactly what was done. I don't want to know just the end result, but what did you do and what was your contribution
Oh,
to getting the end result? The end result will get my attention, but I'm more interested in what they did to get that result. And that's what will lift one person's resume to the top over another person's resume.
oh, I like that because it's not just that it happened because it could be somebody else doing it and they're taking the credit for it, but it's what did you
Exactly.
do
And
specifically?
it happens a ton today. I've
Yeah.
I've seen it a lot where it's like I worked for a company who opened a market. So I put on my resume, I opened Brazil. And it's like, okay, well, what did you do to open Brazil? What was your contribution? What were you involved in? And it's like, well, I just worked for the company when we did open Brazil. And it's like, okay, good to know. But that's not you opening the market. You just happen
Yeah.
to work there when they opened it. But yeah, I think there's a lot of embellishing that takes place on resumes today. So you do have to dive in and ask what exactly was your contribution to the end result that you're talking about.
Oh, I like that. I like that. All right, Paul, let's go to the interview stage. I know this is a small portion of it, but it's big because it's kind of what gets their foot in the door. Um, what quality or skills make someone stand out during the initial hiring process beyond the resume or formal qualifications?
For me, it's accomplishments in
Okay.
their career. What have they accomplished in their career? What experience are they bringing with them to this new position that I'm hiring for? And does their experience and know-how match what it is that I'm looking to hire for? And if it's a good match, then absolutely they're going to get the job. Um, but that's what stands out to me.
Okay, I love that. That's so good. Um, what are the most common reasons someone gets hired, even when there are multiple qualified candidates? So if you had two candidates or three candidates and they both seem qualified, what makes somebody stand out beyond the others?
Yeah, again, for me, excuse me, it's accomplishments in their career. And it's
Okay.
not just it's not just accomplishments. There's people who are very accomplished in their career, but their accomplishments are here. But our position that we're hiring for is over on this other side. And sometimes there can be a bridge because sometimes people are accomplished in their career because they just, again, they get things done and they figure
Uh,
things out. Um, I'll give you an example on that one. When I worked for New Skin and we went into China, China was closed to direct selling. The government had rules against direct selling because they don't like large groups of people. They still don't like large groups of people. Uh, but we needed to grow revenue for New Skin at the time. They were a publicly traded company and their stock was at an all-time low. And China was one of the few markets that they hadn't opened yet. And it was a huge opportunity, but we couldn't go in the traditional way. We had to think outside of the box. We had to come up with new ideas that we could go in and legally do business in China, but but not get shut down by the government. And so we went in with what we called the employee model, with labor rates being so low in China that we could hire people part-time as sales representatives. And then based on their performance, they would either continue to be sales representatives or we would let them go at the end of 1 month. Um, the labor rates were so low that we could afford to do that, to pay someone a few dollars a month. And then if they ended up not being a great salesperson or if they didn't sell anything, we could let them go, and then find new people. And we wouldn't find them. It was the same model that direct sales takes place today in the US and many other countries. But instead of them being independent contractors, like they are in the US and get from a tax form like a 1099, they're independent tech contractors. But in China, we employed them as part-time employees. And then if they didn't sell anything, they were let go and we'd pay them, the legal fees, or we would maintain them if they did sell things. But it was legal and it started a whole new industry in China. But it was out of the box thinking. It was experience, know-how that we applied to then the rules of China, and we were able to open the China market for New Skin and drive stock price up. So it was very successful, and that model was used by dozens of companies, and is still somewhat used today. This was in the early 2000s when this took place, 2003 and 4. But yeah, so it's just how do how do people get things done? And can they find a way to get things done, or do they hit a roadblock? Like, because it would have very been easy to say, well, we can't open China; they're closed to direct sales. Well, that's true, but how can we still do business in that market? There's a billion plus people there. We want to do business there. We want to take our products there. And so it's out of the box thinking. It's a way, how can we accomplish our end goal and do it legally? And if you can find people who are able to do things where they hit a roadblock, but they say, okay, roadblock, but how do we get around it? What other pathway can we build? What other road can we build? And still be successful in this country. And that's the game that I personally enjoy today, is just the obstacles that come up, and then how do we find a solution to get around those road bumps. And but if you can find someone who is able to do those things, that's what makes them a very qualified candidate that you want to be part of your team.
Oh, that's a great example. Out of box thinking and just taking initiative and stuff. That Thank you. That's perfect. Well, when you're thinking at the hiring process, are there any road blocks or gaps or sure signs when to hesitate to hire someone,
Yeah.
even if they appear to be qualified on paper?
Yeah, and that's what we were referring to earlier when I said people will embellish
Yeah.
their resume. Especially with AI today, everyone's going to have a great resume. You can just put in that, hey, I worked for a company that did this, that, and the other, and AI can put together an amazing resume that looks really, really good from a, I don't know who you are, but I'm reading this resume and it sounds good. So for me, resumes are almost less of value today than what they were 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, because who's writing their own resume today? I'm sure there's some people, but most people are using AI, and every day that goes by, more and more people will be using AI to write resumes. So I think it's going to be harder to rely only on a resume to hire people. And so it's going, so the warning signs are just an embellished resume or a resume that someone wrote that says more about their contribution to their company or their participation in that company than what was actually done. So a good interview, a solid interview is a must to separate those who have written a really good resume from those who have actually gone in and done the work.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. We'll work on those with those kids.
And a close thing to that,
Yeah.
and I guess this is more as part of the interview process, but networking. That
Mm.
that was my, I mean, those are my two themes as I read through the 10 questions is work ethic, and the second thing is networking. I think it's more important than ever today to always build a network in the with the BYUI kids that I work with. I just always tell them, always build a bridge, no matter who the person is, whether it's a study group, whether it's a roommate, whether it's a classmate, but you should be constantly building a bridge and building a network because you have no idea where you're going to be and where they're going to be in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now. And you may be able to help them. They may be able to help you. And when it comes to this question number 5 about warning signs and gaps, you also
Yeah.
want this network that when I'm interviewing you and I can say, well, who else can I talk to that can vouch with what you're telling me? And you can say you can talk to person A, B, C, and D,
Uh-huh.
and in your network, and I can call them and they can say, absolutely, John Doe, they did this, they did this contribution, they were involved in this, they traveled to the market, they figured these things out. That if you can have people that vouch for what you actually do, because again, uh, a resume that's almost sounds too good is probably is too good,
Probably.
and you just need to be able to validate it. It is a warning sign when a resume is almost too well written.
That's interesting that you say that because it's so true. Uh, we did it last night with my daughter because she was trying to get a job at it's a soup making place in Rexburg, and she loves making bread bowls and stuff. And I even said it. I was like, "All right, just write it down, and then we'll throw it into AI, and it'll help us out."
Yeah.
And so it is. What else makes you stand out? And
Oh,
that's so
absolutely.
good.
I did it with my kids too, Spence, when they graduated from high school and they had a little bit of work experience with part-time jobs here and there, but they were in college, and both my daughter and my son needed resumes, and I put in what they did, in these part-time jobs, and I'm like, write a resume, and AI did. It wrote a spectacular resume that was accurate. It didn't lie. They did the things that they did, but yet, yeah, the resume also sounded a whole lot better than what was actually done, but it would get someone's attention. And so it's just a well-written resume is almost a warning sign of just make sure you dig in and validate what's on the resume.
Okay. Well, interesting. Well, I want to be cognizant of your time. There's a couple more questions that I want to go through.
Sure.
I'm going to skip down to number 9 and then 10 and
Okay.
then okay. So number 9, I'll read it to you. When you think about the people who are most successful in your organization or industry, what qualities, characteristics, or skills do they consistently demonstrate?
Yeah, it's interesting. MBAs used to be like a key skill or quality that you looked for on a resume. And I think MBAs, and again, depending on the job, if it's business related, then I do think an MBA is important. But for me, it doesn't pull the same weight that it used to, 5, 10, 15 years ago. The quality that I look for that is makes an individual successful today is again someone who has a track record of accomplishments in their career. And I think an MBA can help someone have accomplishments in their career because you have a broader base of education. Um, you have that education, know how to maybe recognize where you can do things or identifying trends, but it's definitely not required today. For me, it's a whole lot more important on someone who has experience and someone who has accomplishments. I will take a resume of experience any day over a resume that has a PhD on it, but no experience at all. I would hire the first person any day over a person that's highly educated but yet has no experience. If you show me a resume with a lot of experience and experience being defined as accomplishments, accomplished in their career, a great track record of getting things done in everything in every position that they've held, I would hire that person any day over someone who had all of this education in the back. That's not to downplay education. I think education is incredibly important. And I think education can help you get to those accomplishments and a lot of times is needed to get to those accomplishments. But I also think that work experience and real life experience um, is a better indicator of how valuable that employee is going to be than what their education is. With that said, I think it's also difficult to get those accomplishments and get that experience without
Oh,
education.
oh yeah.
You're not going to be in that position whether you're in finance or operations or marketing. I think sales is a little bit of an outlier because that's just more of someone's personality and characteristics will kind of define if they're good at sales. But by way of education, to progress or even get started in finance, operations, marketing, you're going to have an education, or no one's even going to pick you up in those roles. So early on, that education is a must. But then when you get down into higher level positions, education is less of a priority and accomplishments and contribution is more of a priority.
Interesting. Yeah, because as I'm working with these students, and it's all about education, I think we're missing the boat. I think education with an internship or practice during the summertime or something of where they're getting them so they're more ready for the workforce than
Yeah.
just get done with school, get it done fast, and then you're guaranteed a job. So
Yeah,
that's great.
I think today's kids they get their education and a lot of them think they're going to go straight like to the top of an organization because I got a 4.0 when I was in college or whatever.
Right.
And and they just I think kids just need to understand that it's a lot more about experience at the higher levels than it is your education. But again, entry level positions, education is incredibly important because you're not going to get the entry level finance job or you're not going to get the entry level operations job without that education. No one's going to hire I shouldn't say no one because there's always relationships and connections.
Yeah.
But if you want someone to come in and be able to contribute right away at these lower level positions, no one's going to hire someone who doesn't have that education because no one has the time to basically do the on the job training, on the job education. If I
Correct.
got to spend all my time now training you to catch you up to what someone who just graduated and has this base knowledge of all of these systems and understands how they correlate one with another, especially like on a P&L statement and how that all comes together. Uh, People don't have the time to train someone who doesn't have that background and that education. So education incredibly important for entry level positions, but as you grow in your career, experience will override education, and employers are going to want to know more what you have done with your education to gain experience and to gain accomplishments, so you're contributing to your company's success.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. That's great. All right, last question, Paul. This is kind of taking you back. You see that last
Ah,
question? If you advise your 17-year-old self who wants to be hired, succeed, and eventually be promoted, what would you tell yourself to develop first and why?
um, first thing I would do is probably networking, especially talking to myself 17 years ago, not so much 17, but like in my early 20s and early in my career, I was so focused on like, I wanted to be seen as accomplishing this. I wanted to be seen as accomplished this, that I wasn't a great team player. I didn't destroy teams, but I didn't, and I worked well in teams, but I didn't want to work in a team because I wanted it to be seen as me. I wanted the company to say, well, who accomplished that? And I didn't want it to be, well, these 5 people worked on it. I want it to be, man, this hacky guy, this PaulHaacke, he did all of this. And so I didn't network very well, and I didn't attend networking events and so forth. And it was a big mistake, and I've had to do a lot of catch up because of that. And I'm a lot better today, and I'm a lot better off as an employee because I have friends and networks and people that I've worked with, or acquaintances, or maybe not even people that I worked with, but I work at this company, they work at this company, but we were at this meeting and we started sharing notes, and I can help you and you can help me, and we're both better for it.
Mm.
But if I could go back to 17-year-old self, it would be network with as many people, do not hold grudges, because you never know how that person can help you in the future. Do not burn bridges, and don't think, well, I'll just burn this bridge because I got all of these other bridges over here. Those bridges over there may never help you, where the bridge that you burned 5 years down the road, you're like, man, I wish I would have maintained that relationship. There, I mean, not career focused, but there was a thing that I was involved with on the school board here, and there was someone who was upset with me on one of my decisions, and they burned the bridge, but then a year later they needed help, and they went to another board member because they didn't want to come to me, and they said, can you help me with this? And they're like, I would, but I'm not as knowledgeable. They're like, you got to work with Paul. He's the one that understands all of this stuff. And the person admitted to him, he's like, oh, he's like, then I'm going to have to apologize because I burned that bridge a year ago. And if Paul's the only one that can help me, then I gotta make an apology and work. And I wanted him as a network because he's influential in our community. So I didn't want that bridge burned. But when someone else wants to burn the bridge, you can't,
Right, you can't do anything about
you know,
it.
there's two of you and you can't sometimes stop the other person. But it's good again today. But my point being, you never know. You might think, well, I'll never need that person again, so I don't care if I burn the bridge. There will be a time when you need that person again, or they need you. Um, so networking and building bridges, I think, is the most important even today for college kids today, earlier in their career, is the most important thing that they can do. You never know who the next billionaire is. It could be your roommate today, and you could be shocked that they start some company up, and and you want to go work for them. It's a Vogue company, or it's just something that's a up and coming company, and you just never know. Build bridges, network with people, and you will be much better off in your career, both early and long term.
Good. Those are two great themes, and I can say as I've interviewed other people, that seems to be rising to the top. Work ethic, building bridges, humility seems to be there.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
it's really really good stuff.
And humility is a good one. just companies don't want problems today. I mean, companies have never wanted problems, but they seem to be a lot more tolerant. But it's like if you got this employee that's just me, and it's all about me and so forth, it's like they're just not worth the trouble. I
Yeah.
think humility is a great attribute that you get things done, you accomplish them, and trust me, your company will know that you did it. You don't need to get the pom poms out and jump up and down and shout and say, just reminder, I'm the one that did this. Trust me, you're even when you feel like they don't know, they know,
Yeah.
and and they'll also know that you're incredibly humble about it, and it will mean even more than jumping up and down and making sure they realize that you're the one that did it.
Yeah. Well, they're also going to know that person that's taking credit for somebody else's work too. Maybe
Exactly,
not initially, but
exactly.
eventually. Yeah.
Eventually, absolutely, because if you take someone else's work and that person does get temporarily promoted because of it, they're going to fail eventually because they didn't do the work and they don't know how to do the work. And so they will fail. I've seen it dozens of times. It happens.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, Paul, this is great information. I appreciate you contributing to this. Um, my hope is to interview 100 people by the end of this. You're number 7.
You
And
got some
and
work to
so
do.
I know I do. And I mean, I've got a network of alumni I can do, but I'm finding that I'm enjoying more the networking than I am just, hey, who's an alumni that graduated from the school? I would love to get into Melaleuca, maybe
Okay.
even talk to Vandersloot or anybody like that. Just anybody that you have, I would appreciate you just introducing me to them if they're willing to be interviewed. Um, uh, how about this? I'll send you an email, and if you could introduce me to them, and
Hmm.
I've had people that's done it that they just send a quick email with copying me on it, just saying, "Hey, I just want to introduce you to Spencer. He's doing this research." And I'll send you an email with the template of what I'm doing so that you can do a little cut and paste and introduce me to some people if you're willing to do that, Paul.
Absolutely. Yep.
Perfect.
Would be happy to.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know that you're busy and I appreciate
Oh,
you
no
reaching
worries.
out.
Happy to
Quickly,
help.
put on your calendar and I'll text you this as well. My dad's 90th birthday is coming up
On the
um,
30th, right?
on the 30th. Yeah, and we'd love to have you come up. We're just going to do a little it's a BYU themed BYU's number one fan, and so we'll just do a little tailgate, just interact, have a hot dog
Okay.
and hamburger or something like that
So
if
a
you're
week from
available.
Saturday.
Yeah, a week from
Okay.
Saturday. I'll send you that invite as well, and so you got that, and you and
Perfect.
Deborah can come.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, Paul. Thank you. You're awesome.
Hey, hey, you have a great day. Find
Okay,
something to do.
I've
Go
got
mow the
plenty to
lawn,
do.
man.
How did you know that's my next thing?
All right.
All
Hey,
right, we'll
take
see
care
you
of
later.
yourself. Good chatting, Spence.
Good chatting with you. We'll talk to you
Okay,
later.
see you. Bye-bye.